Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sexology Podcast. I am so excited and honored to welcome Dr. Albert Wong to our show. Dr. Albert, welcome to our show.
Oh, it's so great to be with you. It's a delight to see you and reconnect.
People want
Yeah.
to cultivate exciting, connecting sexual experiences in a
Mhm.
long-term relationships. What are
Yeah.
some of the ingredients that they need to make
Yeah.
sure that they own and they have and incorporate in their relationship?
One basic and really important piece, I think, is teaching people how to learn to reconnect to their inner body sense. Sometimes they call this the felt sense inside. It's fancy, interoception is a fancy word for it. Sensate awareness, right? But what does it feel like just to feel inside them, right? That's a real kind of skill. Some people have a lot of kind of facility with noticing, oh, okay, I feel butterflies in my stomach, or I feel anxious, or I feel kind of heat in my genitals, or or but some people kind of listen for the feeling. It's like, what? I don't feel anything. And so learning to teach people or how to just start to listen inside. And sometimes it's as simple as, okay, let's just take a couple breaths, right? And let's maybe just first breathe into your heart area. What's that like? Breathe into your belly area. What's that like? What's the feeling inside? Maybe breathe into your genitals, your root chakra area. What's that like? And can you feel kind of the aliveness there? And what is it like? Does it feel safe to feel? Does it feel anxious to feel? Does it feel welcoming? Does it feel not? Okay. Let's just really start to let yourself, maybe starting with breath, like some call it three-part breath, is breathing into each of these areas. So you're connected with each of those parts of you, just kind of when you're solo, right? And so that when kind of maybe you're with somebody, you can also feel those kind of the intelligence and the intuitive flow that wants to emerge from that bodily sense and wisdom, right? So the first step is really just, okay, can I be in my body, just in my body, period? There's so many people who live kind of dissociated from their own bodily experience, and that's something that each person individually can cultivate. And then kind of step two might be like, okay, can I be in my body when I'm with another person? Because there's so much that happens, like, okay, I can close my eyes and be with me, and I can make contact with my inner sense of being. But when I open my eyes, whoop, kind of, I lose connection with myself, right? I'm all over, like, sometimes it's very gendered, like sometimes frequently women tend to sometimes leave themselves and be attuned to the other person, right? So a lot of the challenge is, okay, you get to still be with you even when you make contact with another, right? So you still get to be in your body. And sometimes people feel like it's really selfish, or it's like, no, okay, you're allowed to do that, right? And so just letting people learn to kind of still feel in themselves even when they're with another, right? And so feeling in yourself, kind of making contact with another person and still being in yourself. And then it's like, okay, learning to feel kind of the interconnectedness, right? Almost like shuttling your awareness back and forth between where I am in my body and what it might be like in your body, and then kind of back and forth. And so there's skills of attunement, right? So there's embodiment, like being in my body. There's relational embodiment, like, okay, being with me while I'm with you. There's attunement, right? Being tuned into whatever it might be kind of going on inside you. And so those are, I don't know, some really important, like just basic skills that people need to learn. Sometimes we view conflict as like a negative, right? It's like, as opposed to, what a gift, like somebody's trying to tell me about something, about something true about who they are and what they need. And so kind of learning to tune into that. So anyways, those are some others. Yeah.
I think those are incredible. And those are the missing pieces that, as you mentioned, often people are not talking about, right? So when
Mhm.
we're talking about kind of like sexual skills or things that people need to do, or kind of like being with the
Mhm.
partner, I feel it's more of kind of like what you do versus how to be with the person. And I think the embodiment piece is so important when you mention it. And I think the older I get in this kind of like field of our work and kind of in life, I
Mhm.
understand the importance of it. And even the connection with people is more on how you show up with them versus what you tell them. So I think that is such an important skill. And as you mentioned, that like many, especially during sex, many, and I would say like it's, I know it's not always true, but many women who grew up in a conservative communities, like sex
Mhm.
is connected to so much shame, that like
Mhm.
when you are with a partner, you're just not tuning to your body because you
Mhm.
might feel incredible anxiety and pain due to the shame
Yeah.
or the numbness. Like I have
Oh
many
yeah.
of my clients saying that I don't feel anything. Like my partner can do
Mm.
all sorts of things, doesn't feel great, it doesn't feel bad. And it's
Mhm.
that's a missing piece that you're talking, seems like, about with the embodiment. So one thing I learned that it can be helpful couples is kind of like building these rituals of connection, like maybe before
Mm.
or after, so they can
Right.
practice these things. What are some of the recommendations you have as far as things can people practice the rituals that help them to be that
Yeah.
interconnected piece?
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of the idea of a ritual is really super potent and valuable. It kind of like almost like helps create a safe container, for like the experience, right? So sometimes, certain rituals might be things like maybe lighting a candle or kind of, sometimes there's like having moments or periods of time where it's, touch, but non sexual touch, right? Just to reestablish kind of a safe enoughness with just being interconnected, right? Because sometimes when we jump straight into sex, right, it's like, oh, okay, kind of that's almost overwhelming or too much. And right, okay, just reestablishing that I care about you as a human being makes it safe enough, right, to start to feel things, right? There's this concept called like the vigilance center, right? And sometimes when our vigilance centers, our kind of our threat detectors are too high on, right? We're not able to have a sexual response. It's like almost kind of very difficult to be both terrified and feeling kind of sexual sometimes. There's exceptions to that for sure, but very frequently, like in order to feel sexual, we have to feel safe. And so the idea of rituals are so valuable in that regard. So maybe things like, yeah, setting a timer or kind of having a certain time during the week or, a time of day, creating clear boundaries of, okay, kind of all the, whether, kids are asleep or doors are closed, whatever, right? Kind of, and just creating boundaries around the sacredness of it. I think those can be super potent, and even just micro rituals around being the ritual of sensing into the not just creating a boundary around the work, but respecting the boundaries of people within the work, right? So when people you know learn to tune into themselves and listen to their bodies, sometimes what happens is their body might give them signals, right? Of, okay, this feels maybe not so good, or I'm not feeling anything, and just even trying to learn to listen, okay, maybe this isn't ready right now, or I'm not, feeling ready right now. It's like, oh, okay, please respect that I don't feel ready right now. And maybe even just being a skill of being able to speak that, right? And a skill of being able to receive that kind of with grace, right? Okay, I'm not really feeling like intimacy right now. Okay, or could you place your hand here, or that's a little bit too much here, right? Okay, and just being able to say that, kind of, and to learn to notice inside what your kind of boundaries are, because they actually continually evolve. Like, this is okay now, maybe it's not okay in 10 seconds, right? And just so the ability to do the dance, the dynamic dance of kind of naming a boundary with connectedness, right? So it's like, okay, the boundary doesn't mean I don't care about you. The boundary doesn't mean kind of you're in the doghouse. The boundary just is, okay, thank you so much. It's almost like, instead of, like, I think there's this kind of way in which sometimes boundaries feel like rejection, right? Versus boundaries as connection. Congratulations, you found a boundary, right? Hey, thank you. This is, and we can just hang out here, right? And feel that together, right? And so I think that's another, I don't know, like micro ritual within the larger context of rituals that can become something that really makes it safe to claim oneself, right? To claim who one is in the context of relationship, right? And and anyways, just for the person who might say, like, well, kind of, my partner's doing all these things with me and I'm not feeling anything. Sometimes it's like just slowing things down a little bit. Kind of rituals, there's frequently a certain pace and attunement, like it's almost like spaces where our awareness becomes hypercharged, right? Like, okay, so right now you're with me, I'm with you, and I'm feeling nothing, for example. Okay, let's just kind of, maybe you could, there's a ritual of setting up, okay, let's just slow down and be with that, and be with you, kind of not feeling anything, right? And the truth about feeling nothing is always something, right? And so what does the nothing feel like? Is it a blank nothing? Is it an empty nothing? Is it a small little I'm scared and hiding away nothing? And that if we pause in maybe even a ritual of kind of slowing down and pausing, sometimes out of the nothing, a scared little something emerges, right? Or a faint voice in the distance arises, and then, there it is. Okay, let's be with that. That's something, even in the nothing, and it can transform, right, into something even more deeply beautiful and intimate than whatever sexual tools or skills that are attempted to be applied. It's like, you were with me in my faraway place, right? And then sometimes it's almost like nobody's ever been with me there before. Nobody's ever cared to be with me in my nothing yet, and thank you. And what an intimate moment that can be, right? Just to be willing to be with somebody in their nothing. So ritual sometimes creates safety. I guess one other thing, just about kind of just these containers of safety, that sometimes, there can be agreements within a certain ritual. Like, there was maybe one client, like, who was having a challenge. You could use the word selfish, or I prefer sometimes being self-full. But the challenge that they were having is they weren't allowing themselves to take pleasure. Like, it was wrong for them it was wrong for him to actually feel like he was taking pleasure, right? And there's actually kind of, and his partner, she really wanted him to, yeah, please, I'm yours, please claim me in a certain way, right? But it wasn't safe enough for him to do that. And so just setting up kind of the agreements and the container and the ritual where, okay, in this space, you have permission to claim me as yours, right? And to take me as, almost with the energy of, like, you're mine, right? You're mine. And for her to kind of allow, I'm yours, right? And there was an ability to come through to the other side of just kind of inabilities to connect and feel the full depths of intimacy, because there was this kind of inability to allow themselves to claim and permission. And I think ritual really helped with that.
What a beautiful case that you shared with us, because I hear the
Mm,
same thing. I think one of the other thing that I experience is can be very helpful for people or couples is like having some flexibility in the role that you're wearing, as kind of
mhm,
compared to what you're talking about. That
mhm.
sometimes I have clients that they want their partner to be a certain way and the partner would like to be a certain way, but as you mentioned, they don't give permission to themselves. And it's just like it's against who they are. Like sometimes you have fantasies that maybe it's not politically correct, but it's like
Right,
a
right.
play that you want to do with your partner, and there's nothing wrong with it since it's consensual and you like it and they like it. And I
Yeah.
love this idea of using these rituals, this kind of safe spaces to be
Mhm.
playful with your sexual self and experiment with different version of yourself.
Totally, 100%. When you're with somebody and in especially long-term kind of relationships, there can be, yeah, kind of conversations and agreements and almost instead of it being like, oh, you're locked into a certain kind of pattern, right? Actually, you're with somebody who perhaps cares about you enough that they're willing to let you experiment with being, and what a gift, right? And so, I think that's absolutely right. You can, kind of with consent go to places where maybe in other places, spaces where it wasn't consensual, or it just wouldn't be safe enough to do, wouldn't be okay.